Mike, thanks for joining me today, even though the weather's not great. I want to take us on a journey of the mind.
I'm in, but how about maybe a little later? We still got to drive.
No, what I mean is back about 2 years ago, we actually introduced the Mazda CX-90 to almost every three-row SUV in the segment. Almost.
I think I remember that.
Yeah.
Cue video clip.
Where the heck is Mike?
Hey Kyle, sorry I'm late. You ready to get started?
The one vehicle that was missing that was very noticeable was the Ford Explorer, which was just facelifted for 2025.
Yeah, and you know what? These two SUVs, crossovers, whatever you want to call them, have a lot more in common than you might think. For starters, of the mainstream, they're two of the only ones that have their inline engines pointing towards the rear wheels. They're both rear-wheel drive bias. For those who may not remember, back in the day, these two were partners. Ford actually owned a lot of Mazda before they sold them off, and they used to make SUVs and sedans together. And maybe most importantly, they both have proper headlights.
It's true. There's none of that split headlight stuff that you see on so many vehicles this day.
No giant bar here and a little light down here. Well, we do choose a light down there, but that's a fog light.
We do have a giant grille though. But anyway,
what bigger.
We're going to do is, even though these are quite different beyond those on the surface similarities, we're going to take them out for a drive and see how they compare. Now let's talk powertrain, because on paper, this seems like an easy win. The CX-90 has a bigger, torquier engine. It's down on horsepower, at least in this trim. You can get a higher horsepower model, but it should be more cultured, right? It's a inline six. It's what luxury cars use instead of just a turbo four-cylinder that's in just about everything these days, like the Explorer. Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag. So once you get going, the inline six is great. It sounds pretty good, like if I need to floor it, to merge. Sounds really good, picks up nicely, lots of torque, easy access anywhere in the rev range, so that's good. The bad thing is this transmission, just staying in the right gear. Now that's very specific to certain situations, like if you're stuck in, well, traffic kind of like this on a highway, where you're going quicker than stop and go, but it's never getting up to proper speed, and so you're stuck constantly lifting off or braking lightly and accelerating, and the transmission just stumbles a little bit. It's not sure which gear it really wants to be in. At low speeds, the Mazda also stutters from starts, depending on how aggressive you are with the throttle and how patient you are with the start-stop system. I prefer start-stop systems because I live in the city, so I spend a lot of time at red lights. I'd like to save some fuel. But if you get a little too aggressive, it's very jerky off the line. It kind of feels like a dual clutch, even though it's not. It does have a coasting feature though, so if I lift off at speeds under, well, highway speeds, the engine will turn off for a little while and you'll get the little I-stop light up display in your instrument cluster, and that's great. And that is what contributes to the CX-90's stellar fuel economy. So even though this is a much bigger engine than the one in the Explorer, it's better on gas.
The entry-level Active and the ST line get a 2.3-liter turbocharged four-cylinder that can be matched with rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. It's a powerful engine, but more importantly, it is a lot more refined and smoother than the old turbo four-cylinder. When using premium gas, it makes 300 horsepower, which is actually more than the CX-90, despite giving up a liter of displacement and 2 cylinders. In fairness, the 280 that's quoted on the CX-90 is using regular gas and not premium, where I figure if regular was used in here, which it can be, power would be pretty similar. What this engine does lack, though, is torque. It can't really match the larger, more cylinder-rich engine in the CX-90. All that said, it's quite potent on the road. A lot of people might think, oh, a rear-wheel drive bias Explorer with 4 cylinders has got to be terrible, but 300 horsepower is more than a lot of the V6 Explorers have made in the past, or V8s even if you go far enough back. And in this vehicle, it's always ready to accelerate. There's no real delay or lag, and there's power through most of the band. The big reason for that is Ford's really been working on their 10-speed automatic in their rear-wheel drive bias vehicles, and it shows in the Explorer. No longer is there that feeling that it's not sure which gear it should be in as it's hunting up and down through the range. And more importantly, it doesn't take a while to kick down when acceleration is called for, nor does it hold a gear too long. The tuning and logic behind it is so much better. Cool thing is, put it in sport mode, and not only does the engine and transmission respond better, it actually makes a cool little noise. I mean, even in regular mode, the engine sounds okay, but when you put it in sport, get that nice little growl. Kind of a nice touch, makes it not feel so four-cylinder-like. I know it's partially manufactured, and that's fine. I don't care if it's manufactured, I just care about what I hear.
Do you want a handsome, tastefully designed three-row SUV, the sort that truly straddles the line between mainstream and premium? Do you then want to paint it in the most boring shade imaginable? Well, Mazda has you covered. This trim really kind of downplays how good looking the CX-90 is. Sure, you can see some of the details like those sharp headlights and tail lights, which include my favorite soft pulse turn signal feature that only Mazda does that I really like, but this cement gray is just so blah. Now, I do appreciate that the Mazda has silver wheels, not black ones, so that's a positive, but even then, the 21-inch alloy design is pretty pedestrian. It doesn't really stand out. I actually thought they were smaller because they don't necessarily look big. But again, this is an attractive vehicle, even in the dullest paint imaginable.
The one area the Explorer's in pretty tough in this comparison is styling. Now for 2025, the vehicle got a refresh, and the exterior is different, although it's very similar and familiar, but the little tweaks I like. The taillights are different, and they now attach because everyone needs a full light bar across the back end of every vehicle. I guess we can thank the Charger for starting that trend. And the headlights are a little different, and the grille's wider. Every trim gets a specific grille, so this has obviously the ST line grille. Compared to the CX-90 though, it looks very plain and ordinary, which is maybe what some people want. It doesn't stand out in the crowd, it just blends in, and it's just simple, good transportation. Now this does have the ST line street package, or street style, or street something. Basically what that means is it has the upgraded 21-inch alloy wheels with wide 275 tires all around, the brakes are performance brakes, and the calipers get painted. Now it doesn't transform this into a sport SUV, but the brakes especially are a nice touch, because if you have it full of passengers or you're using anything near its 5,000 pound towing limit, it's nice to have better brakes.
Handsome yet subdued is a great way to describe the cabin of the CX-90 as well, because while there are other colors available, this one is black with a few brown, bronzy highlights in the seats and with the stitching. And that's fine, because this is an attractive, premium-feeling cabin. Mazda's been doing this for almost a decade now, giving its cars better looking and feeling interiors than a lot of their mainstream competitors. You have a soft touch dashboard. It's a bit of a more organic design than what you'll find in some cars, because nowadays pure minimalism and ultra horizontal designs are the rage. This has some fairings, just some visual interest to make it a little more, well, it just helps it stand out from the crowd. Now, while no one will probably ever admit it at Mazda, it's pretty clear that previous generation BMWs were the target when it comes to the layout of the controls down here, because you have a whole bunch of very clearly labeled physical buttons. For climate controls, you have toggles. It's very easy to use, and I love it.
Ford spent a lot of time with this refresh working on the interior. The 24 and earlier Explorers weren't overly premium or nice. They were super functional and they did the job, but that's about all I could say, is they were capable. But with the new interior, they've added a little bit of style and kept the functionality and just kind of made it more modern all around. Like, I like the sort of fake metal bar that goes across the dash, and there's like sort of a carpeted material on it, much like the Mustang Mach-E, and they've still kept the functionality. Where the wireless charger is kind of cool because it got sort of tiered shelving. So there's cubbies everywhere, like in the doors, and then being the ST line, there's the contrasting red stitching. But again, it's going up against the CX-90 here, which arguably has the most stylish interior of any of these somewhat mainstream three-row SUVs.
The trade-off to this stylish-looking cabin is that you just don't have a lot of the usefulness that you'll find in the Explorer. There's decent storage here, but nothing like the Explorer's twin-level setup. Now, if we want to be positive with our wording here, I'll say that the feature set on the Mazda should appeal to the traditional driver who doesn't like a whole lot of, let's call them, distractions. The other way to put it is that the Mazda is just lacking features. A lot of modern features that you'll find in the Explorer. Not safety features. I will say that Mazda goes very well on that front. You even get front cross-traffic alert, which seems kind of redundant to most people, but hey, it's good to have it. And luckily, it's very clear how to tailor all these assists to your liking in the infotainment, because there are information screens for every one. So that's really good. I appreciate that Mazda has a wide-ranging lineup of safety assists and that they are explained easily in the car. I know I'm not breaking any new ground here complaining about Mazda's infotainment system, but still, it has to be mentioned. The Ford's is easy to use and bright and quick, and this, you have to use the rotary dial, and that's only okay sometimes. Never mind the convoluted approach to getting some touchscreen connectivity with Apple CarPlay. It's just frustrating, and it doesn't need to be.
As I said, this is the second tier model in the Explorer lineup. It's really simplified this year, so it's just Active, ST Line, ST Platinum. So what does the ST line come with? Well, the front seats are heated and powered, and there's the dual digital displays, the customizable digital gauge cluster, and the big infotainment screen. This model comes standard with captain's chairs in the second row, although you could get a bench if you opt for it. And then also have the premium package, which adds nice little touches like the wireless phone charging port. There's heated seats now in the second row, the driver's seat's memory. There's also the optional panoramic moonroof, which I think is a great feature in a lot of three-row vehicles because it makes things a little brighter and more airy feeling for second row passengers and even third row passengers, where things can sometimes be a little cramped and kind of dark like a cavern. Something else that CX-90 is missing that's in this Explorer is the power folding third row seats. It's quite a nice feature to have if your hands are full or you can't quite reach the latches to put down the rear seats. But the one feature the Explorer has that you can't get in any CX-90 is Blue Cruise, Ford's fully hands-free driving system. You just set it on your steering wheel and then you don't have to do anything. Even in traffic like I'm in, it will stop, start, keep the distance for me. It'll even change lanes if it sees an opening or if I initiate a lane change. It's such a great system. Blue Cruise and down the road, changing lanes. Cyber truck coming up behind me, getting cut off. I hope I brake soon.
I gotta say, I prefer the front seat when it comes to comfort in the Mazda over the Ford. Now, it's not any more spacious. I mean, you do get a pretty useful sunroof and then a second panel for the second row passengers, but I just mean that the seating position is nicer. I get a better view out of the vehicle. I love Mazda's steering wheels. They are the right size and shape and thickness, and these seats are just a little more comfortable.
I actually quite like this front seat and I find it comfortable, and the armrests are at a good place, and as I said, there's storage everywhere and sight lines are decent. The material on the insert of this seat isn't the best. It's kind of abrasive, so if you're in shorts or something, it might rub against your legs in not a pleasant way, but as far as cushion and support goes, I like it. And of course, as I said before, the ride quality in here is so much better than CX-90s.
Now, Mike made the unfair comparison of getting into the CX-90 and saying that it had flat tires after the Explorer because of how harsh the ride is, and that's not fair, but it's also not quite as far away as you might think. So, out on winding back roads where we did a lot of our filming together, yeah, it's great. When I go and explore my own neighborhood more in the city on these rough, terrible roads, yeah, it rides pretty roughly. You hear and feel every little expansion in the street or any filling line, anything, really, which is, well, not great.
When an SUV has a platform that is rear-wheel drive biased, it usually goes one of two ways. It either tries to be like a BMW and a really good handling SUV, which is definitely what Mazda is trying to do with the CX-90, or it can go the other way and be more of a soft riding truck like an Expedition or Navigator. The Explorer is really neither. The Explorer drives a lot like other three-row SUVs in this class, dare we say the crossovers. They've done a good job, much like Jeep and Dodge have done with the Durango and Grand Cherokee, to make it so easy to drive and smooth and kind of tone out any potential truck-like aspects. Now, this isn't a body-on-frame, so there's that advantage right off the bat, but usually if you're looking for the super smooth, almost minivan-like driving experience, you're getting vehicles that are kind of sharing a platform with a minivan. This is nothing like that. Now, all that said, it's a little beefier and more substantial than, say, a Highlander.
The thing to note about the stiff ride in the CX-90 is that while you hear a lot of bumps and you feel them through the base of the seat, you don't get jiggled around too much. There is excellent body control, which, again, does speak to the sportier nature of the CX-90. And yeah, it has heavy steering, although I find this an acceptable level of heavy. It has a little more effort, but you're not two-handing it for parking. It's just, there's a little resistance and a little feel, and a sporty three-row is still kind of an oxymoron, but there are people who want them, and so this is definitely one, and certainly more so than the ST line Explorer.
So these are family vehicles, and part of what you need to do with the family is haul people and cargo. So we'll get to the people in a second and check the insides. Let's start with the cargo. So your vehicle kind of has a bit of a bubble in the back, and what's Esky Active?
It's sporty, and that is eSky Active G, which, I mean,
sure.
doesn't really have a catchy kind of flow to it.
Right, ready? Trunk off. Hold on. I gotta find my button. Go. Oh, you got a head start. Oh, and that was pretty close. So it looks like they're about the same depth.
Yeah,
and about
actually.
the same width.
Yeah.
I think yours cuts off the top a little bit more. Like you can see your headrests are kind of going at the glass, and mine are just a little inside, but you know what, they're not that much different. How big's your under tray?
Hold on.
Got a nice pocket. Oh, yours is worse.
Oh,
Mine's
no.
completely open.
Yeah.
And can you do this?
See, while you're wasting time doing that, I'm just
sitting here having a coffee while you're doing manual labor.
Done.
Mine hit something, so coming back up.
This is better.
No, it's not. Okay, so we've moved inside, and we'll start with the Explorer. So in the ST line configuration by default, it's the captain's chair, which we have here. I get a nice little armrest. The Explorer only sits two in the back, so
yes,
that makes this just a six-seater. We'll start with comfort up here. Headroom, I fit, but anyone taller than me is not going to like it with the panoramic sunroof, as I'm pretty much touching the headliner here.
Yeah.
And these seats don't go down. They are adjustable back, so I guess I could lounge more, but then I'm into the person behind me.
Yeah.
And the door armrest is just a little low. I'm kind of sitting like this.
Huh. Well, you're still probably doing better than me. I mean, headroom is also like pretty okay. Like my head is just brushing back here, but largely I feel fine. My knees are against the seat, but this is all the way back because we wanted to test that. The armrest is just molded from plastic, so at least I get an armrest. The person on the other side doesn't, but they get both USB-C ports. It's not bad,
You get
honestly.
a bit of a window.
Yeah, that's the problem with the Explorer. I know that the C-pillar is kind of traditional, and like that's, you know, being the Explorer thing since it debuted, but it's enormous, and it makes it a little claustrophobic back here.
All right, now we're in the CX-90. It's a little different setup. This has the bench seat, which, like I said, the Explorer could have. It's an option on that trim. So I have three in the middle, and you have three in the back. So this is the longer vehicle.
Yes.
And you seem like you're another time zone away from me back there. Like, that is a far back seat. How's the space?
Again, not bad, although if I lean back, like we were saying earlier, with the trunk space, my head is touching right where the tailgate is, and that would have me a little concerned about a pinch if it was closing and my hair was, back there.
It's not Veloster bad.
No. In terms of the seat cushion, it's actually not that different from the Explorer. It's like, it's low, so my knees are a little up, and that's fine. The legroom with both seats furthest back is worse in here. I've kind of locked my boots in the floor, actually, with the seat being pushed all the way back. But of course, how's it up there in terms of legroom?
I got lots. Like I can move a good 4 or 5 inches forward if I needed to.
Okay.
And this passenger seat's all the way back, so there's probably even more if they move up. So remember in the Ford, I said my armrests are like this?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this one I'm like this. They're both very, very low for an adult. And the seat seems a little bit lower. Maybe that's why they're trying to do it to give me the headroom. Because I mean, I have the same headroom issues. The only difference is the low part's a little further forward. So I'm not quite touching. But
yeah.
I'm pretty close and my knees are kind of up. If I had to pick a rear seat to spend like a half hour to an hour in, I'd probably prefer to be in that one. What about you?
Interesting. I mean, so it's not great in either, I would say.
So, conclusion, this can hold more people technically.
Technically.
Neither of them are the most comfortable 3 rows.
That's true. Yeah, we didn't even mention that technically this does fit 3 in the back, but I don't know who would want to do that.
So I think 4 adults, 5 in a pinch, would prefer to be in the Explorer.
Yep.
But if you have your child and like 4 of their friends, this is a better vehicle.
Yep.
So as you can see, it's almost dark. We've driven a ton. We got the cars real dirty because winter. And I guess we got a couple thoughts. So
yeah,
this is, as we kind of expected going in, the better sort of family mobile. The best word I can think for it is capable. It's capable of doing pretty much everything. It doesn't excel at anything, but it's not terrible at anything. It's just haul people, haul a trailer, haul groceries. It's got good tech for the price.
It's very good tech when you compare it to the Mazda. The Mazda does a lot of things well. It feels sophisticated. It's nicer in the front for the driver and the passenger. That inline 6 is really smooth, gets great fuel economy, and it just, well, it feels a little more premium. That being said, it's not perfect. It's lacking some features that the Ford has, and the seats are tighter. In the third row, and even in the second, it's not necessarily better.
Yeah, if you want to be fancy, I keep saying that word,
fancy,
and you have a couple of young children and you might haul their friends around, that's a great choice. If you have friends or older children, teenagers, or you have like a cottage, this is probably going to be your better choice.
Well, and I think one thing that we should definitely point out too is that blends in, and that's a good or bad thing, really. Like maybe you just want to blend in with a very capable, unassuming SUV.
And then same with like the interior sitting, which we'll do after. Oh no! All right.
My camera is pretty close to you.
3 bear paws.
Huh.
Nice. Mazda wins.
Huh.
Banana bread too.
They're just trying to sweeten us up.
And they give us free gems.
Oh man, it comes with gems.
And they say journalists are bought off.
I wouldn't say that.
Mazda's buying us off with bear paws and jewels.
I mean, that's fine.
That jewel made a serious dent in this armrest. It wasn't us, Mazda.
I got it this way.
Sure you did.